Everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty and today I'm launching a little bit of a recurring video that I'm going to be doing throughout the year, and this is going to be called Saturday Showcase, where I'm going to be using these prompts and cards to help me recommend some books to you. I asked over on Instagram and Twitter very recently for you guys to give me some prompts or themes or tropes, anything that you really enjoy to see in books, and you didn't disappoint. I got quite a mixture of things, from cohabitation to forbidden love to grumpy sunshine to magic systems, all sorts. So I've got a little stack of cards here. Originally I was going to do this as a game where it was like I picked one and then I had 30 seconds to pick out books. But then I realised that I really want to go through every single one of these cards, and I just would not have had time to do that if I did it as a game. And yeah, I decided instead I would be inspired yet again by the amazing Wren over at Reading Wren, where they have started doing a Friday, what have they called it? Like the Friday 5 or Friday Fives Day or something like that, where every now and again on a Friday they're going to pick a thing. So this round it was badass female characters, and they picked 5 books that featured that particular theme, and that made me inspired to do this as a timed video. But then I thought, no, I'd rather do it this way. So what I'm going to do, I will pick out one of these tropes, one of these themes, one of these whatevers, and then I'm going to go to my bookshelves, I'm going to pick out some books, and then we're just going to talk through why I recommend them. So our first prompt is going to be very apt, disability rep. Okay, let's go find some books. Okay, I found a few. When I say disability rep in this, I'm not talking about mental health. I have various books on mental health that don't feature physical disabilities. So that's more what I'm doing here. These are more aimed at physical disabilities rather than mental disabilities. There will be a separate video where there's ones that feature anxiety, depression, etc. So for physical disabilities, first up we have Dark Shades of Magic by V. Schwab. This has a character who is blind in one eye, and certainly by the third book we have another character that suffers with severe chronic pain, and every time he uses his magic it basically tries to kill him in return, and he just suffers all the time with pain. And I believe in the upcoming trilogy, Threads of Power, that's going to be explored in more detail. So I'm like, no, don't hurt him anymore. Next up we have Cinder by Marissa Meyer, and Cinder herself, even though she's technically a cyborg, she does have body parts that fall off, and she does suffer quite a bit with certain disabilities. She has problems with her eyes, she has problems with her limbs where they stop working. And even though it's written as her being a cyborg, I do still feel like people that have these kind of issues and have chronic illnesses and pain and are amputees, they still get the same frustrations, and it's still understandable that they would have the same reactions that Cinder has to these things when they happen. We then have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I couldn't not include Kaz, could I? He uses a cane, he has a limp, he struggles with chronic pain, but yet he is still this absolute badass who is ruthless, cutthroat, and leads the group to perfection. He's also inspired by Leigh Bardugo's own problems with chronic health and fibromyalgia. I think she's got fibro, or is it MS? But she's got severe chronic pain herself. She uses a cane to walk, and she based a lot of what goes on with Kaz in particular based off her own experiences. So you can tell when you read that character that that's coming from personal experience, not just what someone thinks it's like to have chronic pain, and I'm definitely here for that kind of representation. Next up we have Hooked by A.C. Wise, and even though I personally didn't enjoy this book, I will say I did like the rep in here for chronic pain. Specifically with Hook himself. In this, he's more of an old man now, like I'd say he's in his 60s or 70s. And I know 60s isn't that old, but certainly in the 1940s, after you've gone through what he's been through, you feel it. And it talks about how he also has a drug addiction in this, so he's struggling to manage the pain without the use of the drugs. And I think the scenes in particular about him talking about the pain and how everything hurts and that he can barely move and the way his joints crack and creak and groan, I was like, yeah, I have the same problems. I felt that, and I felt my own joints aching when I was reading this. So absolutely, really well done, especially representing not only having this chronic pain, but also being at that stage where you're in so much pain, you will do anything to get rid of it. Bless you. Next up is 16 Souls by Rosie Talbot. If you watched any of my videos last year, you know I have ranted and raved to the heavens about this book and how amazing it is for disability rep. There's a minor character who is deaf that comes in later in the book, but the predominant character and the main character, Charlie, is a bilateral amputee, and the way Rosie writes him and the problems he has, if I didn't know better, I would have thought she was also a bilateral amputee, because she gets even some of the tiniest bits right, like just the little things like moving from a standard pavement to cobblestones, and how he has to adjust how he walks, and talking about how the prosthesis feels when he does it, to the day-to-day annoyances that he faces in his own home. And I myself am not an amputee, but my mum was, and I saw so many of the same emotions and frustrations that she had being reflected in this book. And I loved how she was like, just because he is a bilateral amputee doesn't mean that his life is over, and he can still do what everybody else is doing. He might just need to modify a little bit to be able to do it. And I just thought it was fantastically well written and very, very respectful towards people who are amputees. Another one with amputees is Die Volume 1. One of the main female characters in this, when they were transported into the game, she lost her arm, and then when they came back into the real world, her arm was still gone. So she then had to adapt to being an amputee in two different worlds, but one world where she's got all the tech to not really notice that she's only got one arm, and then coming back to our world where she suddenly has to cope with I think it was like set in the 90s, 90s technology and all of this, when she was doing sci-fi futuristic tech. And I thought that the rep for that was really good in this. Another one that I really loved is Perfect World Volume 1. I haven't finished the series yet, but this one follows Itsuki, who was involved in an accident, and that's left him with a spinal cord injury. He's now in a wheelchair. He's now paralysed from, I think it's the waist down. And even in the first volume, it shows the problems that he has, not only with manoeuvrability and accessibility, particularly within Japanese culture. For example, he is an architect, and one of the big struggles he has, even in this volume, is a project that he's proposing. They don't want to install these ramps, and he's like, well, how are wheelchair users supposed to use your facilities if there's no ramps? And they were like, oh, we didn't even think about that. And it shows how people are still very much mistreated if you are disabled in Japan. And he also has various other health problems, such as having kidney infections, and when he gets fevers, he can't treat it as well as he would if he was able-bodied. And I've learned a bit more about spinal cord injuries through reading this, and I'm definitely going to continue the series. He also teams up with a younger boy who's had a similar injury and tries to encourage this younger boy to not give up and to go and do wheelchair basketball. And it's just such a heartwarming, lovely moment that, I love this. And then the final one is Wistress by Nadine Brandes. This again is one with chronic pain, and also the character had she caught the pox when she was younger, and it caused damage to the bones in her legs, and therefore she really struggles with chronic pain and walking. The only sort of negative I would say about this is that the author then has it that whenever she goes ice skating, and she was saying that skating is the one time when she's not in pain, and she can skate for hours and hours and hours without feeling any pain in her legs. And I'm like, every time I've gone ice skating, my legs burn and hurt and are in agony for days afterwards. So I find that difficult. But, you know, if it works for that character, it works for that character. And I only have my experiences to go on. I don't know, other people might find that ice skating is a way to relieve pain. I don't know. But Again, this does talk about the pain quite a bit, and it does reference things like when she's riding a horse and she struggles, she's like, yeah, I've never really ridden a horse because of the pain and because of the disability. So yeah, there you have it. Whole bunch of books all featuring disability rep, specifically physical disability. Like I said, there is also a mental disability video that will be coming up at some point in these videos. Let me know in the comments if you've got any other recommendations specifically to do with things like chronic pain. I have got other books that I have read that I don't have the physical copies. So for example, the Brown Sisters trilogy, Chloe Brown has fibro, so I've read that. But yeah, I'm always interested for more recommendations. So let me know in the comments if you've got any other books that you think are must reads. I hope you're all good, I hope you're staying safe, and until next time, bye.